detail therein. But I on the agenda of minutes for our meeting held on the 14th of December 2022. Is it your wish to pass my notes to True Director of that place? Really? Thank you. Apologies for absence for apologies for being difficult, but I'm not aware of any other else in. Declarations of members' interest. Any? I'm looking around the room, let's see the indication. We haven't had any questions by members of the public, with no items of urgent business. And we haven't done any requests to address the meeting, so that takes us straight into performance for period 3. Colin, enlightenment.
I'm very grateful witness.
You can do it.
Corporate performance KPIs as set out in the legacy pages. I'm very impressed with the first two because the first two show that we're actually collecting a number of students in large measure. I'm very pleased with that. We've got the other one, benefits, average days to the process. That's showing a sign of improvement. There's one there, benefits, average days to process new claims. Well, it's another one of those things. Every time we seem to get set on a good course, the government come along and change the schemes around and all that sort of thing, so that it slows everything down. So, okay, that's what I've got to say. Thank you very much.
We've had papers for a while now, an opportunity to study, and I've got to say that I'm really pleased to the way that members of Australia Congress will understand why that is. And we also have, we're looking in the direction of travel on most of those directions, as we wish to be. So we have been through some challenging times, the result of COVID and the aftermath of that. I'd like to thank all our officers for the work they've been doing. You can take that message back and another cabinet to everybody concerned. Great. Are there any questions on any of those items? In that case, can we approve the indicated or no? Then we can agree that the recommendations are taken in that report. And we move to the general fund road budget for 3-4 and the capital programme for the same period. Steve, would you like to start and bring Mira in as she did?
Yes, thank you, David. Yeah, this is of course the general fund and the capital programme for the forthcoming year. And you'll be unsurprised to learn after years now presenting budgets that the policy that it's been an incredibly challenging year, and one of which is presented on various ways, but one which the council has always responded to quite magnificently. A couple of key points. The most authorities, I think almost every authority, but don't quite know quite yet. We are going to be increasing competence by the 2.99%, resulting in the pending charge of around 269.68. That actually represents 15p per week, and I'll ask you to consider what they could buy for 15p per week. In terms of other points, we've needed to make identified claims, including these ones unprecedented. This year, as always, started on the budget early, and last 5 months, every cross-government organisation has been tasked with finding new ways to generate income or save money, and I'm incredibly grateful for all officers for that. The council needs to find initially an additional 2.5 million in 2023-2024. But thanks to that hard work done by members of this authority, the planned budget has not only been achieved, but more importantly, it's been done without making any reductions to frontline services. I'm also particularly proud of the fact that following on from last year's successful cost of living crisis fund of £250,000, we're able to add to that this forthcoming year to £100,000. That is direct targeted support for businesses, communities, sorry, not businesses, sorry, for communities and organisations to draw down. And I'm sure will be discussed at full council and some of the successes that our programme has delivered. There are a couple of corrections to be made in the report. One, 1.9 of the report refers to 63.9 million capital expenditure and £146 million over the next 3 years. This report was written just before the levelling up fund to announcements were made. It is incredibly disappointing that the government hadn't seen fit to support our application and support the heritage programme that we had in place. So the figure instead is 4.16 million, not 9.7 million, something like Kentish and things like I think you've already got them. Well, I'm happy to say is people who have seen the capital programme, like the government's lack of support for our heritage buildings, we are still continuing our investment programme in them. I'm very excited to say that Lansdowne will be open in April, and programme will be booked, so please do book your tickets down. And the works are going to commence on the ground to make that building secure and safe. And hopefully that will be open to some pop-up events potentially in the near future, not too distant future, that would be a phrase for that. Works will continue with regards to that. There is an additional recommendation that we would also like to add to the report and to full council, and it is further consultation with the Chief Executive and the Section 151 Officer. Cabinet will note, because we mentioned on numerous occasions, the success of recovery and stabilisation programme and other in-year savings. And I have to say that there's been approximately £6 million of income savings as a result of that programme since the devastation of COVID and the challenges that pandemic has on our own accounts and on our own stability, shared by most across the UK. I propose to continue the recovery and stabilisation programme in phase 2, taking into account the new cost of living pressures and inflationary pressures that this council will now have, and understanding that this authority will have those pressures, both in terms of the inflationary cost and indeed calls for further support from the authority, whether that's temporary accommodation or additional needs for officers all the time. With this in mind, adopting phase 2 of recovery and stabilisation will help this authority further on its journey to financial stability and de-risking. In supporting this delivery, I recommend, and I like to recommend both to Cabinet and to full council, that we approve the flexible use of capital receipts for transformation improvement purposes, carried out by phase 2 of recovery and stabilisation. So that is an addition to the recommendation. The most important thing to note about our budget this year is that we are protecting online services whilst stabilising finances and our lunch really on the road next to recovery. Thank you.
You, Steve, where is it?
Nothing better.
Alan.
Only just quickly to reiterate what Councillor Hall said. I mean, the background to all this, putting together a budget, is absolutely, the practice that we've been under, along with all other authorities. First, I want to pay tribute to our staff putting this budget together, which has obviously been extremely challenging, and the 2.5 million, the additional monies that had to be found and have been found is a tribute to that work. But obviously, in the context of the energy pressures, interest rate pressures, inflation pressures, economic situation, that everybody's facing, the loss of government support, revenue grants to councils up and down the country, With that background, we put this budget together, and to go further than that, to actually be able to increase the monies that we're putting into the cost of living crisis fund support, which other councils haven't necessarily been able to do that sort of thing. I think it is remarkable and something that we should be really pleased that we're doing. So I'm happy to second the recommendations. And I suppose the last shot is just to say, in the context of the budget, that we're all aware of the great pressures around emergency and temporary accommodation in housing and homelessness, which clearly comes out in the report. And going forward, that is a real challenge for all councils, I'm sure, but very much so here in Eastbourne. It's one that we are working round the clock to make sure that we're able to help people in need in that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Perhaps just repeat some of the words I uttered yesterday. It was very much budget time. And so for those who are county council, apologies. But I'm genuinely very concerned with the future of local government. I think that successive governments have ignored the importance of the services that are provided at the local level, and the services that communities rely most heavily upon. I'm committed to, personally, and our group are committed to any form of cross-party lobbying or individual lobbying through the local government organisations to try and persuade government to be important with those services. There are a number of councils in the UK who are literally staring bankruptcy in the face at the moment. I'm pleased to say that Eastbourne isn't one of those, but the times have never been more challenging. I'm paying considerable tribute to our staff for the work they've done on the recovery and stabilisation programme. If you look at the targets we put into that, I've got to be honest and say that when we set them, I was worried whether or not we would manage to achieve them. The results have been incredible. The amount of money that has been saved without affecting frontline services by the tremendous amount of work that's been done and the flexibility that our staff show. Going forward, it doesn't feel that it's ever going to get easier, but I've got great faith in the budget we're setting this evening and the ability of the council to deliver upon that. There are no other indications of being I anticipated that there might have been representation of the opposition in questions there, but there aren't any here this evening. And everybody in this room has been working on this budget for a considerable amount of time, so I'm going to ask you to accept the recommendation subject to the amendments that Steve mentioned. He talked about corrections. I don't think there are corrections, Steve. I think the alterations are the result of the government inaction with regard to the Levelling Up Fund. But taking the revised wording, are you happy to agree with the budget? That's unanimous. Thank you. Steve, will you stick with you for treasury management, please?
Yes, thank you, David. This is the annual report of the this produced by officers. My thanks again to Andrew and others for the financing to put this together. It sets about our bond requirements, our capital fund finance requirements, and forecasts. There's no full ceiling changes from previous years. It's all within financial prudence indicators and also can be checked. So borrowing has been reflected in the capital finance requirement, which sets out the council's outgoing requirement for borrowing and includes both using internal sources and external borrowing.
Thank you. Once again, anything to return?
Nothing further from me, Chair, supported by the cross of the guarantee definition.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding treasury management? Treasury management sometimes conceived to be quite a high subject, as I said before, but actually it's extremely important to make major difference to our ability to invest to provide services by getting the borrowing and the investment strategy right for the council, choosing the right points at times when changes has served us extremely well over the years, and once again, thanks to officers for the work they do in that respect. I don't see any applications, so can I ask your acceptance for recommendations? Thank you. And that, see, it's really your show tonight, isn't it? So it needs to get back to you for the housing development.
Thank you very much, David. Just a few things to note here. Regulation of 8 in the law is there's a typo, I'm afraid. Dairy funds are actually due to be increased to 7%, not 5% as written. Again, Simon is something aware. Again, the report itself is fairly self-explanatory with regards to events and now the next steps with regards to this in the HRK. The only point I would like to make is that, of course, we don't object to a cap on rent imposed by national governments, but I think they're going to have our votes because support us as well. As they play a key role in creating the stability in the UK economy.
Okay, anything more?
If I may, very quickly, I think it's very significant that by introducing a cap and unsupported cap, the HRA is having to manage increasing inflation in some areas actually higher than the reported or increase in inflation. And that is creating a significant pressure on the housing program, especially a business plan. And that's something that the company will make sure that we are revising the program to be in line with the future financial and resources available to the as well.
Only to reiterate what's already been said, the impact of the cap puts pressures on across the organisation, but that's brought out in the report, and also draw attention to the fact that the report reflects the recommendation to release 100 limited in relation to residential service and other charges which are all listed as well. But I think the report brings that out. So, happy.
Thank you, Alan. Yeah. Over the years, government has done a lot in terms of controlling how we run the housing stock. There have been times where they've stopped building altogether. There have been times where they insisted to put up rents when we perhaps haven't wanted to. There have been times where they've insisted to keep rents down in order to stay able to increase. I wish they'd concentrate on what we actually need to do, which is give some private money for the social housing service. Perhaps I'll stop there and try not to be too good. Can I ask for your acceptance of the report, please? Thank you very much, which brings us to our final item, which is the Congress Military Part to the Entities and the future governance directions for that. My thanks, you see all over the recommendations set from the cross-party work group. I thank members of that for the work they've been doing. They've looked in detail at a variety of different models, the options that we've considered, included within the report. The way forward that we're suggesting is a lack in the interim for charitable status. That will give us time to test the model and put together a robustness plan for the future. But the direction of travel is one moving to a charitable trust. And that charitable trust will have benefits that we as a local authority don't have around the exemption on VAT, the ability to draw down grants that will be paid for local authorities and to gain other investment. But the estate ownership of the state will remain the ownership of these borough accounts. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on that or whether you just have to accept recommendations. Steve?
It's not so much a question, but just the other side, we support this step for Devonshire Park and Devonshire Park contract. I think particularly useful for my mindset of, as I suppose one of our finances, what does we want to with regards to recommendations made by the insurance review and our partners in terms of the importance of I guess diversifying perhaps low income stream, I would say perhaps de-risking theatres particularly income, taking me some used to run an event in the town centre is a challenge, and not having the guaranteed income, and yet having almost guaranteed overheads is always going to present with authority some challenges. And I think having a process where we can share that with others, I think is a very wise step. And of course, it's even success of where it's gone away perhaps from council, surely won't council ships to other organisations. I know we've met for a couple of groups recently and locally with regards to this, who have taken on the challenge and have done very well, exceedingly well. In fact, in allowing big operators to run the theatre as opposed to a council to try and run the theatre, I think makes great sense and is the next evolutionary step for us.
Thank you, Steve. Any other comments? You know, we've got good experience, sorry, Margaret. We've good experience of setting up a plan. One that we set up for the waste collection has been very successful, particularly when we compare it with other authorities that used to work alongside in a joint waste partnership. And so that's an interim step, and I agree that we'll be looking for a robust business plan and what the next step away to a charitable trust. So if I can ask your agreement to the recommendations in the report. Thank you, and that concludes our business. Thank you very much.